The music of Guqin is quite different from all sorts of Chinese music. It stands entirely alone, both in its feature and in the important place it occupies in the life of the literary class. To appreciate the music of Guqin is not easy, because the music of Guqin is not a simple and a clear melody. It is painting and writing with sound. It needs our attention, subtle feeling of different touch of the strings, and different mood or atmosphere we are in. In ancient China, music is the harmony of heaven and earth. So, the Guqin music, there are three kinds of sounds produced with Guqin. The first one is san yin, played by right hand only, the left hand not touching the strings. The sound is deep and rich, representing the sound from the earth. The second one is fan yin, floating sound. This sound is pure and dreamlike, representing the sound from the heaven. Apart from the previous two sounds, other sounds are all got from pressing the strings. We call it an yin. An is played by the left hand, and the fingers move as it presses to change the pitch. Its sound is mellow, delicate, and expressive like human voice, so it represents the human beings. There are different types of handbook of Guqin music passed down from the ancient days. In these handbooks, apart from the tunes, there are some notes and remarks, which will help us understand it better. In China, there is a tradition of studying Guqin music, which is called Qin Dao today. The title of each piece of Guqin music is special, closely related to the nature, legend, Chinese philosophy, Chinese history, and everyday life, and the thoughts of the ancient Chinese scholars. Mountain and stream, called shan shui in China, is the representative for landscape, the nature. Mountain and stream are also the everlasting theme in Guqin music. There is a legend about mountain and stream. Boya is remembered as the most famous Guqin player, and Zhong Ziqi, a good listener. When Boya played the qin, Zhong Ziqi listened. When Boya, in his thought, dwelt on high mountains, Ziqi said, "How excellent, impressing like the Taishan." When a moment later, Boya in his thought dwelt by flowing streams, Ziqi again said, "How excellent, broad and flowing like rivers and streams." When Ziqi died, Boya broke his qin and tore the strings, and all his life did not play it anymore, since there would not be a kindred spirit like Ziqi. Today, high mountain, together with floating streams, has a meaning of kindred spirits or confidant. As a matter of fact, this famous tune was divided into two from Tang Dynasty, high mountain, and floating streams. In 1977, the United States launched the spaceship named Voyager in an effort to communicate with alien life. 27 world-famous songs were selected to make a disc that was sent into the space. Flowing Streams, played on Guqin, was one of them. Since then, people around the world have paid attention to the ancient Guqin. In Guqin music, apart from the nature, field gatherer and the old fisherman are also important. There are songs for the field gatherer, songs of the fisherman, and the evening songs of the fisherman, a splashing sound of the oars, a dialogue between the field gatherer and the fisherman, etc. Why are field gatherer and the old fisherman important in Guqin music? Maybe they are closely connected with mountains and streams, which are important elements of Guqin music. More importantly, field gatherer and the old fisherman are the approved symbols of simple life in complete harmony with Tao, as supposed to be the opposition to the chaos and the sorrows of the world. Tasting already during earthly life the joy of eternity is the privilege of enlightened recruits, so they retreated back to the mountains and streams, just as William Wordsworth retreated back to the lakes. Another type of Guqin tunes is related with famous persons. For example, Confucius. This sage is considered to be a great player of Guqin. He composed several influential tunes. Yi Lan, Alas, the Orchid, is his work. When Confucius visited in succession all the feudal princes, but none of them could employ him. Returning from Wei to his native state Lu, he passed a hidden vale and there observed a fragrant orchid flourishing alone. Heaving a sigh, he said, "In truth, the orchid should be the perfume of kings, but now it is flourished alone as a mate of common plants." It might be compared with a wise man who finds that the times are not suited for practicing his principles and associates with common people. Having said so, he drew his chin and composed a tune on the orchid. This story is a bit depressing. Let's tell another interesting one. In Western Han Dynasty, Sima Xiangru, a famous poet and musician, went to seek shelter with Wang Ji, magistrate of Linqiong County in Sichuan province. There was a beautiful widow named Zhuo Wenjun, who was only 17 years old and loved music very much. Wenjun lived with her own parents. Her father happened to be good friends of Wang Ji and invited Wang Ji and Xiangru to dinner. Xiangru knew Wenjun's fame and wanted to meet her, so he played a song with Guqin, which said, "This male phoenix has returned to his old home from roaming the 4 seasons, searching for his mate." His music and passion moved Wenjun. They fell in love with each other. Since Xiangru was poor and Zhuo was very wealthy, their love was forbidden by Wenjun's father. So they eloped and lived happily together. This famous story passed down, and the music "A Male Phoenix Seeks His Mate" became popular. The music of Guqin is abundant with connotations. There are different types of music which tell different moods and minds. Xiangru's music is deep and sincere love, while Ruanji's music is a way to escape from the reality. As a well-known scholar in Weijing dynasties, Ruanji was known to all as one of the members of Zhuling Qixian, the 7 sages of the bamboo grove. Under the tyrannical dictatorship of the Sima Xiangmu family, one may get into imminent disaster at any time. In order to avoid persecution provoked by the ruler, he always pretended to be drunk. A wild drunk is his work. Different from the peace and the harmony in Guqin music, it described a drunk man before us. His friend Ji Kang, a talented and learned person, advocated the philosophies of Lao Tzu and Zhuangzi. He was killed by Sima authority at the age of 40. Before execution, he played Guangling San, Guangling strings, then signed and said, "Guangling San is dead today." This piece of music is considered to be his grievance and indignation. Of course, some Guqin tunes are musical versions of literary production. In China, the earliest collection of poetry is Shi Jing. Every poet in it can be sung, quite a few having Guqin versions. In novels, Guqin is applied as a useful tool. During the period of 3 kingdoms, there was a famous man named Kong Ming. He was very clever and was an important strategist. One day, when Sima Yi led the army of Wei bore down in force, Kong Ming ordered the town's 4 gates opened wide. At each, a score of 20, disguised as commoners, swept the roadway. The soldiers had been told to make no outward move when the Wei army arrived. After this, Kong Ming put on his cream feather cloak, wrapped a band around his head, and, followed by 2 lads bearing his Guqin, sat down on the wall. Sima Yi saw this and halted his army and rode forward himself to view the town from a distance. There indeed was Kong Ming sitting by the torrent, smiling as ever and burning incense as he played Guqin. Puzzled, Sima Yi turned his army around and retreated toward the hills to the north because he was afraid to be checked. The Wei army withdrew and the city was rescued. This famous story is just empty city, a strategy used when you are in danger and you present a bold front to conceal a weak defense. Stories are over. Now let's come back to Guqin again. When we play Guqin, we need to understand 2 things. One is the different finger techniques and hand postures. Another is the complicated symbols of musical notes in the handbook. Quite different from Western music scores, Guqin music is not written down in notes, but in complicated symbols that explain how a note is produced. These symbols are a combination of abbreviated Chinese character, which is called 简字谱. The 简字 score of Guqin notation is in vertical column, like traditional Chinese writing, so it should be read from right to left. The normal 简字 indicates the note. The smaller ones are the various graces and the general indications, such as vibrato, piano, etc. The small circles here have the same function of the bars in the Western musical scores. 简字 score is a fascinating musical score in China because it describes music with words. Let's read some symbols in the 简字 score. For example, the symbol is san. Apart from san means touching the string with the right hand only. The left hand is not needed. This is 泛音, floating sound. In a piece of music, if it needs 泛音, there is this symbol indicating the beginning of 泛音, and this is the stop of 泛音. This is 按音, pressing the string to produce sounds. Actually, 按音 is the major sound pattern in the music. So in most 简字 score, it is not displayed. The above are the symbols of the timbre. The other symbols are about the move of right hand and the left hand. They are just part of the 8 basic postures of hand. The others are combinations of these basic postures. For the left hand, different fingers play differently. This is the symbol of thumb. This one is index finger. The next one is middle finger. And the last one is the ring finger. Interestingly, the little finger is not used, so it is called forbidden finger. The touch of strings with fingers of the left hand produce different sounds. The fingers also move according to different requirements. For example, you will see this mark, 足, part of 跪, kneeling. If it is inconvenient for you to press the string with the tip of your finger, you can use your left ring finger, not on the tip, but the back of its first joint. It looks like somebody is kneeling down. If you want to have the effect of vibrato, you can use your left finger quickly moves up and down over the spot indicated. It could be long, it could be still, according to your interpretation of the music. You will also see some symbols of the left hand such as 上 and 下, meaning ascending and descending. 上 is gliding to the right. 下 is to the opposite direction. In 简字 score, the right hand and the left are combined together, forming more difficult symbols. Look at this one. There are 2 symbols. One is in normal character, the other is smaller. So we can see the normal one is the note. The small one suggests some variation. This symbol means for the right hand, you should play the 6th string with the posture of 挑. For the left hand, you should put your thumb on the 9th 徽. The middle part is 力, part of 撞, which means to strike against. When the right hand pulls the 6th string, the left makes a quick, jerky movement up and down to the 9th 徽. This is another combination of symbols. This is a bar of Guqin music. You can see the circle, which divides the whole tune into different bars. The first symbol for the right hand, we should 挑, the 6th string. For the left hand, the thumb should be placed on the ninth hui. However, do you notice there is a hidden shang in the middle of the symbol? Yes, it's shang, ascending, meaning the thumb should glide to the ninth hui, just like this. The second symbol is simple. We can see the mark of san, the symbol of san yin. So just use the middle finger, pulls the fourth string inward. The third symbol is the same with the first one. The whole music is like this. Although there are only 7 strings and 13 hui markers on Guqin, there's a wide range of music. We can switch the tuning patches to get the different modes of music. For example, this is the scale of F. If I switch the tuning pack, and it sounds like this. So you will hear another key, right? Although there are detailed descriptions of our hands and fingers, it is still very difficult to understand the music of Guqin. And it's difficult to grasp the theme and the rules of it. Some Guqin players began to da pu. Da pu is a special way of notation transmission and the process of reconstructing ancient pieces from Guqin. They try to figure out the expression and to recreate the piece according to the general rule and the techniques of both hands. It helps the spread of Guqin. In the same time, because different understanding, different players interpret the music differently, that's why we can hear different versions of the same music. With different interpretations of Guqin score, with different tunes passed down, with different technique preferred, different schools of Guqin were formed. My teacher is from Zhepai Qin School. The famous players of Zhepai Qin School were mostly from Zhejiang province. There are also other schools of Guqin, such as Guangling School, Yushan School. Zhepai Qin School is the first Qin school in China. During the Southern Song dynasty, the capital was in Lin'an, Zhejiang province. Lin'an is just Hangzhou today. Because the capital was here, the culture from the north and south met here and merged with each other. The founder of Zhepai Qin School is Guo Chu Wang. Guo was from Yongjia, Zhejiang province. He was a very capable man. When he stayed in Lin'an, he had a chance to read some ancient anthology transmitted by Han Zhao Zhou's ancestors. He carried on and arranged them. The military failure at that time forced him to leave for Jiuyi Mountain. He lived in solitude with mountains and streams. He worried about the future of the country. The landscape was the same, but the prosperity of his nation was gone. Worried and depressed, he composed a well-known music, Xiao Xiang Shui Yun, Clouds over the rivers Xiao and Xiang, which became one of the 10 most famous Guqin musics and the masterpiece of Zhepai Qin School. As the first Qin school in China, Zhepai was influential. It developed and passed down a lot of famous Guqin music. After Qing dynasty, Zhepai declined for a short period.
Mr. Xu Yuanbai renewed the music of Zhepai. He had some influential students who continued to develop and spread Zhepai Guqin music. My teacher, Xu Xiaoying, was just one of them. She has left us, but the music lingers, and her students continue her career. Teachers and students, one generation after generation, keep inheriting and passing down the music and Guqin culture.
The relationship between teachers and students are usually intimate because Guqin is taught by means of oral transmission. They need not only exchange the techniques, but also should read together the minds and the feelings of the ancient. Of the most precious antiques, none equals Guqin. They cannot be compared with Guqin, which sings if its strings are touched, giving an impression of meeting the ancients in person and talking with them in the same room or sitting in the wild, enjoying the beautiful nature. The next piece is taken from a famous cartoon, Feelings of Mountains and Waters, which will show you the beauty of mountain and water, the beauty of Guqin music, and the love between teachers and students. Thank you very much. Let's enjoy.